This episode is when you do everything right in wellness and still not well, or if things just kind of go off kilter, and then what to do about it, and then when arrogance punches you in the face. Hey guys, my name is Judy Cho, and I'm board certified in holistic nutrition. And I have a private functional medicine practice where we have worked with over 2,000 carnivore clients and patients get closer to root cause healing. And it often starts with our Carnivore Cures all meat elimination diet. So my boys went on a field trip on a random Monday and they had so much fun. And then by the end of the night, they were feeling really sick. Actually, my first son, or my oldest, who is 10, got really, really sick. And he rarely gets sick. He had a fever of, I think, almost 104. And then he was just wanting to sleep all the time, which again, he's a busybody. So that was very odd too. And I think within a few days, he started getting better. And then my youngest son decided to get sick all over and had a fever about 103 for multiple days. I think it was a total of 6 days that I took care of them. And I thought, yeah, my immune system's pretty good because I eat clean, I exercise daily. I just thought my immune system is so robust, I won't get sick. And I didn't get sick for 6 days. And then as soon as my youngest was starting to turn the corner and feeling good, I started to feel a little sick. I think it started with a little bit of feeling woozy. I don't know how else to explain it. And then I got knocked out for the next 2 to 3 days. I have actually never been this sick in my life. And I've had COVID, I think at least 2 times. The first one, I was sick for a few days, but it was nothing like this, nothing. And I think you know when you're really, really sick, when you start pleading with God or bargaining. And that's what I was doing in the middle of the night. I was bargaining, pleading with God in so many ways to just help me get better. But I wanted to share a few things that I just thought of when I was bedridden. So I've mentioned the first one before, but it's that people that are well have so many wishes, but people that are sick actually only have one. And while I understood that, I don't think I understood it until I got really sick this time. And just to give you context, again, I don't think I've ever been sick like this in my life. And it's been now almost 6 days. And I remember when I was really sick and I didn't know if I would actually even get better. Kevin calls it a little bit of a drama queen, but I would just pray that my kids would be okay. That was my one wish, that Caleb and Aiden would be okay. And then when they were okay, then it just became, I just pray that I'll be okay, that I'll make it through. And in those moments, though, it made me really think about our community. The second thing I realized is that arrogance can really punch you in the face. And this has been very, very humbling. I chose not to take any medications or supplements because I've been eating really clean and I've been having daily movement. And so I thought I was the healthiest I could be and that there was no way that I could get sick because, hey, carnivore protects you from everything until it didn't. And so I would share the same water cup as my kids. I would sleep with my kids. And so it was a lot of things that probably you shouldn't do when kids are really germy. And I chose to just be like, no, I'm okay. I am so healthy. So yes, arrogance can totally punch you in the face. Okay, a couple serious ones. I used to think that assisted death was an easy way out and that either they didn't know about SIRS or they didn't know about these chronic illness, multi-system, multi-symptom illnesses such as Lyme or MCAS. And just because they didn't know, that's why they chose that route. And when you are sick and it's days on being sick and there's nothing that is helping you, you start to feel a sense of desperation. And while I was going through it only for a few days, which to me felt like eternity, some people are this unwell all the time. And it made me realize that we can never judge someone unless we're in their shoes. If you have chronic pain and chronic fatigue and chronic whatever the illness is, and there seems to be no relief or no end in sight, I can understand why hopelessness and desperation, and especially if you don't have a faith or something you believe in that's greater than you, Like if I wasn't praying to God, what would I be doing in the middle of the night, like begging or pleading for help? And so I understood. I don't know how else to say it, but I understood. I think the hardest part is I know I have makeup on and I made myself not look sick, but I'm not 100% right now. And so it's this invisible illness that is the hardest part. Like if my arm was broken, people's first instinct would be to say, "Are you okay?" And so when people are dealing with chronic illness or chronic autoimmune or fatigue or pain or joint pain, you're not going to hear the questions every day of, "Hey, are you in pain today?" And so it just makes it that much more lonely. And I just want to share that I get it. Not ever probably to the extent that people suffer long term, but my heart goes out to you. The other thing I wanted to say is I really thought about our patient community a lot while I was sick. I think I have so much more empathy for you all. I know I always did, but a lot of our patient population is in pain daily and they have to fight and choose to get up daily and do the daily activities and routines and protocols to kind of sort of feel normal. And that's even a good day. Most of them don't feel normal, and normal is actually a day of a lot of pain. And I thought of that when I was laying there and not well. And I just have so much admiration and respect for people that are fighting for better health when the easy thing to do is to complain and lay down and just be sick. And yet we have a practice full of people that are eager beavers that want to get better and fight to get better. And I really think that there is no empathy similar to when someone walks in your own shoes. I think the big selfish reason why I wanted to record this is so I remember. I know in a year I'm not going to remember I was this sick or that I really got this sick. It was a big humble pie to have to stop everything, have the only wish to be that I could be better. This week, where we were supposed to have our company call and some really great podcast episodes and episodes that I was so sad I had to reschedule. But my only wish became that I could get better. I just wanted to record so that it reminded me to stay humble. Don't be arrogant. Carnivore cannot stop you from getting an illness. If I were to rewind time and I could do everything again, here are some of my tips that I think would not have gotten me sick, or at least as sick as I did get. The first one is diet and hydration. So if I wasn't carnivore, I might have been sick for a lot longer. Hydration is key, obviously, because we have a lot of toxins in our body, especially for sick. And so the way to move all of that is by drinking enough water, getting your lymphs to move. And your body is 60% water. So you want to make sure that you're hydrated. The second thing I would consider is sun and movement. So during the winter months or fall months, we don't get as much sun. So even if you're going outside, you might not be getting as much vitamin D. So you just want to make sure that your vitamin D levels are in the normal range or a range that you feel comfortable with. And you just want to make sure that you still get a little bit of sun outside as best as possible. Vitamin D is just really good for immune function. The reason I bring up movement is because there is truth that nature has a healing remedy. There was a 2019 study where just being outside for 10 minutes and just getting that natural outdoor environmental feel, I think walking was the example in the study, but there was a 39% improvement in overall mood and affect. That's pretty big. Just 10 minutes outside changed a person's overall mood by 39%. And the third one is stress and sleep. And I think this is where I really failed. So I think it was stress that got me. I've had a few stressors recently, and our practice has been working on a lot of things behind the scenes. Stress has been a little bit higher than normal, and it only mattered to me because it started affecting my sleep. So if you know me at all, I'm actually a really good sleeper. I can go on those 6 to 9 hour flights and sleep the whole time. Literally, I can sleep the whole time. I've had people tell me they were amazed at how well I was sleeping. I could sleep pretty much at any time and then be able to sleep for the next 8 hours. So I know I'm very blessed about that. I don't talk about it because I almost feel like I'm showing off about it. So I know that I've always been a good sleeper. But recently, I couldn't sleep for more than 4 hours. Something would wake me up, and I knew some of it was stress. So I got my cortisol checked in the morning. And it was the first time ever that my cortisol's been high. And I promise you, it's not the carnivore diet. For the people wondering, it was a 21. So that is very high. And no, I do not have Cushing's disease. I think it should be low by now because I am sleeping a lot better. I know some of you guys are going to ask about my labs, so I'll just run through them really quickly because the only thing that was off was the cortisol. So my thyroid panel was good. My free T3 was 2.3. Autoimmune antibodies, none present. My vitamin D was in the low 50s. Homocysteine was 8. Hemoglobin was 5.3. Insulin 2.7. Testosterone 33.2. DHEA was 220, progesterone was 8, estriol, estrone, and estradiol was balanced within the menstrual cycle phase. So everything was within range. So the stress I was having was impacting my sleep. And then the poor sleep was triggering me to have more cortisol in the morning to survive. And then it would just be this vicious cycle of not sleeping enough and just running on fumes. And so I want to take a moment here and talk through how stress is so detrimental to your health. I mean, I am a perfect N=1 right now, where I am eating 98% carnivore. And if I do eat anything, it's usually a little bit of veggies, very little. Maybe I'll have a small keto treat if a friend sent one over, but that's really it. I don't eat grains. I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat these junky things that are the other 5% or 2% of my diet that's not carnivore. So it's not the diet. I mostly just drink water. I limit caffeine to maybe 1 cup in the morning. Our family has been doing this exercise thing for 3 months. So I clearly had everything right going for me, diet, lifestyle, except for the stress part. And then that stress part was affecting my sleep. So there are 10 major stressors that can really make anybody sick. So if you are dealing with any of these 10 major stressors and chronically or consistently, then if you are also chronically ill, it kind of makes sense because you're in this low grade, or maybe not even low grade, maybe it's moderate grade or even high grade levels of cortisol. I was shocked to see shocked, but not really shocked, but shocked to see my cortisol high in the morning. So the top 10 major stressors that can impact anyone's health, but it's death of a loved one, divorce or marriage, relationship struggles, job loss, career change, financial problems, health issues, obviously, relocation or moving, birth of a new child. I kind of would put a new pet in there too, like a new puppy or a new cat. And then others are sometimes legal issues, retirement, social isolation. A lot of these things also impact certain people. And these are all stressors that can overall impact your stress levels. So when you are stressed, you will release more cortisol. That's that whole fight or flight hormone, that emotion, that energy that you feel that kind of sort of gets you going. And it's normal to have cortisol, but when it's constantly on, it's not a good thing. And one of the reasons why it's not good, especially from an immune function, is that cortisol inhibits your white blood cells, especially your lymphocytes, which is your T cells and B cells. But when it dampens that, it weakens your overall immune cell function. And when cortisol dampens the lymphocytes, these lymphocytes are the white blood cells that help to produce antibodies and help to fight infections. So you can see as you have higher cortisol, even from eating extra sugar or from having a lot of stress in your life, it will reduce your overall immune function so that when you get a virus, you will not be able to fight it off. And chronic high cortisol can also reactivate some dormant viruses in your body, such as Epstein-Barr as well as herpes. I've also talked so much about how excess cortisol reduces immune function, especially in the gut. The gut has most of your immune function in it. And so you will have a higher likelihood that if you're chronically stressed and then you're eating, it's going to cause a higher chance of gut permeability, gut dysbiosis, because when your cortisol's high, your immune function or your gut function is low. And then when you're eating all this stuff, who's protecting the gut? And that's how you could think of how high cortisol reduces immune function and then reduces gut function and then causes a lot of gut dysbiosis, or what we like to call intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And then long term, if you just allow the body to have constant high cortisol, what eventually happens is your HPA axis or the hypothalamus pituitary adrenals will overall reduce your cortisol output. because it gets exhausted too. And so you'll have low cortisol and you'll have higher risk of immune dysfunction as well. Now, if you're curious what chronic cortisol looks like from an immune function, it's being the person that's chronically sick, chronically ill. It's the person that maybe gets those reactivations of latent viruses such as Epstein-Barr, herpes. It can be that you have seasonal allergies all the time. You get sick and it just takes forever to get over it. And it can also be that you are getting increased autoimmune symptoms. These are all signs that your cortisol is probably a little bit too overused. If you are starting carnivore or a new protocol or a new wellness journey, here's what I would recommend, given that stress is a part and that even diet alone, as perfect as it can be, may not be enough. Obviously, one, eat the meat you enjoy. You cannot eat a way that you don't like the meats you're eating. You can imagine what it's doing to your stress response every time you eat a liver or eating a certain meat you don't enjoy. And so every time you're eating it, you have this almost gag reflex. And you can imagine what that's doing to your nervous system and then the release of cortisol. Obviously, drink enough water. I've talked about the detox, the importance of hydration, how your body is 60 to 70% water. And if you're not drinking enough water, then you're not allowing your kidneys to filtrate through a lot of your toxins. Same things with your liver. We see people's skin on a carnivore diet, especially in our practice. If they're not drinking enough water, they just look a little dry. I promise you. I know a lot of carnivores don't believe that hydration matters, that just drink to thirst. Actually, if you're drinking to thirst, you're probably already dehydrated. The next one is obviously get sun. Get as much sun as you can. The level of mood improvements, as well as just a little bit of movement, that vitamin D, the light in your face, those things are so important for just your overall wellness. It will not always get you to root cause. We don't see that because all of our patients do that as a fundamental baseline of health, but it is still important to do that. And movement is so important for your mental health, for your bone health, for your cardiovascular health. So I recommend doing movement and lifting heavy things. Obviously, I just talked about stress. So reducing stress is so important. I know it's hard in our modern life to be de-stressing, but I think we should make it a concerted effort. And I don't mean to de-stress by watching hours of TV because that is not de-stressing. That is sort of numbing. What I mean by de-stressing is what is something that if your bucket is full and you're not feeling well, or you just feel like you're at your wit's end, and what is something that you can do to reduce that stress? What will reduce that load that is burdening you? The next one is connection. If you know me well enough, my relationships are probably the most important thing to me. It is so important to have genuine connection. And it doesn't have to be with a lot of people. It could be with one person that you can sort of bare your soul and be fully honest and share things without feeling judged or without feeling bad for sharing. So you could be vulnerable in a genuine way and basically be seen and heard. And that is so important because it supports immune health. It allows you to feel connection, and it is in connection that we have longevity and that we feel like we are alive. When I was sick, the thing that got me through was my family. There was a really sweet moment where my oldest Caleb, he was going into the shower, and we tend to listen to music as a family. And I gave him my phone and I said, go put on the speaker and play your favorite song. And he said, but you're sleeping. Isn't it going to bother you? And I said, just play whatever you want. I miss listening to music. And so he turned on Pandora and he played my favorite song from AJR. If you're curious, it's called The Good Part. And I remember when I was feeling sick, I just had a little tear in my eye because my little son, even though he's still young, knew that if he played my song, maybe I would feel a little bit better and maybe that would help me get a little bit better. It was a really sweet moment. But it is in those moments of connection and love and feeling vulnerable that makes you feel a little bit stronger to get better. And that day, that made the difference. I want to say a message for the people that are really sick. I never, ever want you to give up. I know that there are moments of darkness and bargaining and anger and negotiating and just desperation of wanting to get better. Even if some days it's a loss or you have zero spoons or you just don't feel well, that's okay. Just let that day ride. but always try to fight for more, fight for better. Because even for me, at a certain point, I was tired of laying down and I was so unwell, but there was this fight in me that started getting angry that I was sick and that I was willing to do whatever to get back up. And I think that little spark in me helped me to start literally getting back up. I know I'm not 100% in your shoes. And so I don't want to ever downplay your unwellness. But I also know through our mind body program, the way that we view the world and the things that we focus on becomes our reality, and it becomes our every minute, and then our every minute becomes our days and our weeks and then our lives. And so if you believe that you'll never get better, or if you focus on that you're always sick or every single part that hurts, instead of focusing on what you have and what you're grateful for and what you can focus on that you're better today compared to yesterday, it becomes a harder challenge. And so have days where you have grace for feeling unwell, but have days where you make sure to fight and keep going. And you should always surround yourself with community to let you know that what you're feeling today, especially if it's a dark day, that you're never alone. The loneliness, the darkness is where the enemy lies and cheats and steals. And it's the easiest place to get you in your head to say, you're not worthy, you are alone, you don't matter, and it would not matter if you didn't live. And so I just ask our chronically ill community to keep fighting. And if you feel alone or at your wit's end, join a group. Join a group of people that are suffering from the same illness you have that connection, relatability, and then don't get hyper focused on just the illness, right? You have to get over the illness too, but have community so that someone says, I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and know that you can be better. And today is just a bad day. And I hope if you get anything from this, that you know to seek that. I think if we all just led with a little bit more empathy and always having the best intention of the other person. So whatever or whatever they did, the thing that they did is probably not bad. I think it could go a long way. If we were to always have more empathy for somebody else and we all function that way, how better of a world would we live in? You know, I asked my friend who's very chronically ill why she doesn't complain about her illness on a day-to-day basis or even weekly basis. And she said it's because this is her norm. And after a while, no one wants to hear that you're always in pain. But if you think about it, there's 30 million people that suffer from autoimmune, probably more than that. That's a lot of people. And so most people we run into will have an illness or a chronic illness, and it's usually invisible to the eye. And so I know that most people I run into are suffering from an invisible illness, and yet we forget that empathy for people, thinking that, hey, you cut me off because you're just a jerk. When in reality, maybe they're in pain and maybe they're just not talking to you about it. And I think if we were to all just lead with a little bit more grace and empathy for one another, I really think the world would be a much nicer place. The last thing, if you've watched my channel at all, this is something I say so repeatedly, but don't aim for perfection. And I know I'm talking to myself too. We will fall, we will do all the things, and we will still get it wrong often. And you can do the diet right and still have hiccups. And maybe it's not about the diet at all. Maybe you get sick not because of the diet, but because you had extra stress on your plate, or you weren't sleeping, or maybe it's the environment. We have to have grace, pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep going. I think when we ruminate on why did I fall this time eating carnivore, or why did I not get better with this supplement protocol, or why did this not change when everybody else, comparison is truly the thief of joy. One thing we teach our boys so strongly is to only compare themselves to who they were yesterday, that no one else should be compared to in their vision, in their eyes, because you will always find another person that is so much more better than you, successful, pretty, blah, 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 blah. But you can improve yourself every single day just by a little bit. And if that means that yesterday you had 80% carnivore, and then today your breakfast was fully carnivore, that's a win. Who cares what everyone else shows on the internet? I just think that we just need to compare ourselves to ourselves. And then even if we fail our former day self, then we just pick ourselves up and we try again. It is more important that we have many consistent days than a perfect week and then fall every other weekend. Having 80% of days nearly perfect is far better than being 100% perfect 50% of the time and then failing at a diet or a lifestyle regimen 50% of the time. It is in our desire to be perfect that we end up failing. And so I hope that you only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And some days it's a win just to be the same as yesterday. And that is okay because you have another chance tomorrow. If you are failing at a diet, and if you were to just take a day and reflect, are you being too strict on yourself? Too much emphasis on perfection that is causing you to fail? And actually, if you were to just be a little bit looser, that you can probably be way more successful, you got to let it go. And so just know that even if you're doing whatever wellness, lifestyle, pursuit, protocol, and you get sick or something doesn't go right, it doesn't always mean that therefore everything you've been doing is wrong. I don't know why we get so black and white, catastrophic thinking when something doesn't go right. I do not believe I was eating carnivore even after 8 years, that was the reason I got sick. It was because I had stressors and I wasn't dealing with them properly. Then it was the perfect viral opportunity to tell my body to slow down. And you know what? It worked. And it overall was a really humbling life lesson. I hope that you take care of your health, have grace when it's not perfect. Know that it's not always something that you didn't do, but sometimes life gets lifey. But know that striving for perfection can actually make you sicker when you are striving to have better immune function. I think a carnivore diet, however you want to define it, well, I guess low carbs would be ideal with that definition, but mostly meat-based. And then don't worry about all the nuances beyond that, because that will do a lot for your immune health. But if you are striving for perfection, you can shunt a perfectly great diet to become a way of living that becomes stressful. And then more than anything, it can cause your immune system to be shunted to start hurting you instead of supporting you. So you just want to make sure that your mindset is right as you try any protocol and diet. We need to stop thinking that if I march to this perfect order, then everything will be okay. Maybe it's because I'm faith-based, but I don't think it's that simple. And I just think there's a lot of things that we cannot explain with just evidence-based clinical studies. Sometimes there are wonders that are beyond what we can imagine and explain. And so I think have grace and just let life get messy sometimes and be okay with that. The mindset really matters. Knowledge is super powerful, but the way we use it is key. I wanted to take a moment and say thank you to one of my first clients. She was probably one of my very first 100 clients. And she has become a dear friend because it's been so many years. She painted that, literally painted that. That's amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you. I got it while I was sick, opened it up and started bawling. Obviously, when you're in bed for so long and isolated in a way, you get extra emotional. And so I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you. And I actually got a few other things, but thank you guys for making me feel loved, because I think it is people like you that help me to serve others. So thank you. Okay, guys, make sure to eat a lot of meat, take care of your bodies and your minds, because life is short and our bodies are the only place we have to live. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys. Hey, guys, my name is... Oh my God, I'm not going to get through this. Hey, guys, where we have... Hey, guys,